Okay, so it is time for an update on how we're building soil here in the desert. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you today as the last day of May 2020. So here I am, I'm staring at the morning sun. It's getting hot. We've been up near 110 for the last week or so. We wanted to give you an update on these berry beds where we're creating soil basically from nothing. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what we've got going on now and a couple things I think we're going to try based on what we're seeing. We're going to start with this first bed. Now you can see we got a couple things going on since the last time you saw this. The first thing would be this hardware cloth. So we actually had taken some acorn squash. So we had acorn squash for dinner. Took some seeds and put them in several different areas here, and within a week we had acorn squash starts, which you're going to see here. Now we had several more, and we found pretty quickly that our rabbit population was really enjoying all of the seeds and of course the starts. So we added this extra layer of protection around the outside to try to keep rabbits from coming in here. Now we also still have a few quail that like to call the place home, so we've left these up for now until these acorn starts get a little more established. But what was amazing to see with daily watering in these wood chips, we already know we don't need to dig down in here. We know we're creating soil, but what's amazing is to see just how much growth we're getting out of these acorn squashes. They're growing really well. So I'm gonna have Lori slide in a little bit closer. Then you're gonna see these are growing really, really well. And guys, this is just in wood chips. There's nothing else in here. Now I am gonna thin these out, so we'll show you that here in just a second, but you can see just what kind of growth we're getting. I've got a really nice one there. I'll probably keep that. And that one looks pretty good too, so I'll probably keep these two for now. So I'm gonna thin this out a bit here in just a moment. As Lori scans over though, you'll see we got another batch of them here. We have another batch of them there. So this is definitely not the right time to be planting acorn squash, so we'll see how these do. I am not real hopeful that we'll necessarily get any production out of here, but to see this growth in nothing but wood chips after what, a month or so of having these wood chips and watering them in, that's just amazing to see. So I'll thin these out. We're gonna keep these going as long as we possibly can, and I'm not gonna do anything else with them. You know, I've heard stories of not being able to grow in wood chips because of the lack of nitrogen and too much carbon, blah, blah, blah. And I believe that's probably the case. However, these are growing without any issues. Now, one thing I do know is right here, so near this group of acorn squash here, this is where we had the unfinished compost. So I do know there is some nitrogen here. So now how much of that is leaching out underneath these wood chips? Hard to say, but I would imagine these roots are probably already down there because we're only dealing with about 5 or 6 inches of wood chips. So I'm gonna go ahead and thin these out a little bit and then get to the next bed. So you can see how easy that was. Now, one of the things that I want to point out is I did clip the starts, those plant starts, right at ground level to leave the roots down in the ground. We want those to stay there. So actually we want them to completely degrade and break down. And also those roots, I'm hopeful that those actually went down into the ground. So ultimately maybe they've mined a little bit of some of our heavy mineral rich soil or dirt and brought that up towards the surface. Either way, we clip them there and then we leave them in the ground. So this bed I think is done. We'll keep it watered each day. Now what I want to do is walk over to the other bed. You got to see what's growing in here. We've got a lot of green in here. So now I know at least 1 or 2 of these is actually whatever type of plant the straw that we have down here was, because there were seeds in there. I know at least one of them's over there. It's probably barley or something. But what we have in addition to that, you'll see lots of green growing in here. Now I know what that is. That's actually from the wood chips. More specifically, it's actually from the palm that we have in some of our wood chip piles. So now that's one thing about wood chips that you need to make sure and realize when you get chip drop or somebody else dropping wood chips is you're going to get a little bit of everything in there. Now, usually palm is not all that desirable for us here on the farm because we use so much as far as wood chips is concerned. We don't mind some palm in there. Now, one of the things you'll get with palm though is you will get seeds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Lori slide in a little bit closer so you can see just what kind of root growth we have in these palm starts. I can't really see it there. There we go, that's good too. So you can see there's the palm seed, so that's where it started. Can't really see that one, but you can see we've already got some good growth. Now, I broke the tips off of each one of these. So I've got, this is about where the soil line was about here. So we got a good 3 or 4 inches, which means this is pretty close to digging into the ground. And these obviously went further down. So what we're going to do, obviously we want to make sure we keep all of that material down underneath the wood chips, but I am absolutely not interested in growing palms in this bed. So what Lori and I are going to do is we're going to go through and snip all these off right at ground level so we can keep those roots down there, let those degrade and help out with our soil build. So Lori and I are going to get our little clippers out and go through and snip each one of these guys and come back to you. You can see there's one little guy left. That's actually, I don't know, whatever cereal grass that straw was from, probably barley. Either way, we've got all those cut down, left those roots in place. So once we saw this and we saw how well the acorn squash was doing in this bed, we thought, you know, time for a few more tests to see if there's anything else we might be able to get to grow in these beds. Now, obviously, definitely the wrong time of year to be planting anything in the ground. Tomorrow's June 1st. It's going to be 105 to 110 degrees tomorrow, and it's like 6 or 7% humidity. The worst conditions to plant something. So we thought, okay, what are some other things we could test? And one of the things that we thought, well, maybe there's a chance that possibly, if there's any chance of anything growing, maybe it could be sweet potatoes. So we have never grown sweet potatoes. We've heard everybody talk about how wonderful they are, how great they are at covering the ground and cooling the ground off, which we thought would be great. So we decided we were gonna give a shot at growing sweet potatoes. So you can see I've got starts here, but I want to go ahead and show you the setup that we're using in order to get these slips from some sweet potatoes. This window here faces south. In the middle of summer, it doesn't really matter too much. The sun's right overhead, but either way, there's plenty of light coming into here. Now we do have shades that come down, so the light is not really intense, but you can see they grow really well. And it's obviously something new for us, but you can see I've got 3 more slips right here. I've got a couple more slips going on this one. And then of course the 2 that we're planting today, you can see have a lot of good root growth. Either way, you can see very simple and easy to grow these sweet potato slips, which is good for us. Very simple setup, just right inside the house with some ambient light essentially, and these things grow like crazy. It's amazing to see. It takes about a week or so for them to start, and then they just turn into these massive, just monstrosities. But you can see we got a couple of slips here, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plant these 2 slips into a couple different areas in this bed and see whether or not these are going to survive. Now, I'm not sure whether or not they will, but I can tell you this, they've got a great start as far as roots. You can see from there just what kind of root growth these things have. They're both about 1 foot tall or so. I'll put them back into their water here. But I think there's a chance that these may actually work. So what Lori and I are going to do, we're going to go ahead and get these 2 planted, probably evenly spaced, and then we're going to see whether or not we can actually get these things to survive, even just today. So we're going to give it a shot. Okay, so we got the sweet potatoes in the ground. So again, I really don't know whether or not this is going to work. It'll be a great test to see whether or not sweet potatoes can grow in basically just wood chips when you plant them at the beginning of June here in Arizona. Either way, we've got the cages around them to keep them from the quail. Assuming they do well, we'll actually take those cages off once they can survive quail going in there and pecking at the leaves. So probably a few weeks from now. And again, I don't know whether or not that's going to actually work. What I do know is as I was digging down in there, and I don't know whether you could pick it up on camera or not, definitely have plenty of moisture down in those wood chips, so I know that those are breaking down well. I didn't see any worms, but we're also not in the middle where we had the compost. I didn't want to be digging into the raw compost and trying to plant a sweet potato in there, but they're just on either side of that compost pile. And actually, I should mention, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to link the video here where we actually showed you how we started with nothing but wood chips and a little bit of compost in these beds where we're trying to create soil from nothing but wood chips. Of course, now we've got a few things in there besides wood chips. What I'm hopeful is that we'll actually be able to get a crop production out of here. I guess we'll have to see. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Questions or comments, leave those in the comment section down below. Instagram and Facebook, we post content there you won't see here on the YouTube channel. And our Amazon shop, I'll leave a link down in the description. That's a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with that link, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. What's up, are you okay? Oh, I saw a finger. Usually means pause.
That's funny, I saw a finger.
I saw a finger. It was a good finger.
That's good.
So, where was I? We got stuck on fingers. Time to grow. Just talking about quail too. And we have a quail run up. Look at him dig. Yeah, you, buddy. Are you just gonna hang out? All right. I guess we're gonna have a quail in the background.